Good day to all. This is Pastor Edwin Arceliana, and welcome to Soulergy. We will be talking about the topic of faith. Let's read Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. It is right to say that faith is the foundation of prayer. But it's not just coming to God believing that He's there, not even believing that He hears. But faith in the Greek comes from the word pistis, which means trust. There is a personal dimension in faith. The reason we come to God is because we trust Him. And we trust Him because we know His character. Because we know that He loves us, we know that He is good, and in the many years we have known Him, He has proven Himself faithful. And therefore we can come to Him all the more in prayer, and we can have faith in Him all the more because we trust Him. And that's what faith really means. We cannot come to God in prayer apart from trusting Him and entrusting our very life and existence on Him and really depend on Him for everything. The famous tightrope walker, daredevil, and acrobat Charles Blondin, the Frenchman who visited the United States in the late 1900s and amazed and shocked everyone when he would walk the tightrope 1,000, more than 1,000 feet long from the US side of the Niagara Falls to the Canadian side of the Niagara Falls, and he would cross that tightrope hundreds of times. And people, of course, know, they believe that he can do it. But it's one thing to believe that he can do it. It's another to entrust your life, your very life, in the hands of Blondin himself as he crossed that tightrope in the Niagara Falls. And one man did. His manager, Harry Colcord, agreed. And before they walked the tightrope, this is what Blondin told his manager. Let's read. "Look up, Harry. You are no longer Colcord. You are Blondin. Until I clear this place, be a part of me, mind, body, and soul. If I sway, sway with me. Do not attempt to do any balancing yourself. If you do, we will both go to our death." And sometimes God places us in those situations wherein we have no other option but to just trust Him and flow with Him. Jesus Christ had that opportunity with His disciples. Most of them were fishermen, and they were crossing the Lake of Galilee to the other side. But a storm came, and Jesus was there sleeping. Let's read verse 37 of Mark chapter 4. "A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke Him and said to Him, 'Teacher, don't you care if we drown?' He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, 'Quiet, be still.' Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to His disciples, 'Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?' In other words, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no trust in me? I am with you. I am the one carrying you. I am the one in this boat. Have faith in me." And that's what prayer really is all about. In fact, in Hebrews chapter 11, in another version, the CJB version, let's read, "And without trusting, it is impossible to be well-pleasing to God, because whoever approaches him must trust that he does exist and that he becomes a rewarder to those who seek him out. Now, we might find it a bit strange that the writer of Hebrews would have to even mention that God exists to the Hebrew Christians. No, because existence here is not merely that there is a God, as we read in this quote. The existence of God here is not just intellectual assent to the fact that there is a God. The author is saying that God is real. Therefore, a real relationship with him is possible. He is not some imaginary God. He is the living God. As what Pastor Peace mentioned the other day, Psalm 42, let's read. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. He is not some figment of our imagination. He is real. Therefore, we can have a real relationship with him, and we can really trust him because he is really in control of all things, and everything that he does comes out of his character, and we can really trust him. The more we come to him in prayer, the more we experience him in our life, the more we will come to him in prayer, trusting that he is indeed good and that he will truly grant us what is really in his heart towards us, which is really our good. That's a beautiful fact to understand and to see. Let's read this quote. Faith means that a real and meaningful relationship can be had with this God who is real. The reality is not theoretical, but experiential, which results in deeper trust in his character and goodness. In fact, the context of Hebrews 11 verse 6 is in verse 5. It talks about Enoch, a man who did not see death because he was taken up to heaven. And the reason he was taken up to heaven was because he pleased God. Let's read Hebrews chapter 11 verse 5. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. In Genesis 5, this is where that story is taken from in verse 24. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. The reason why the Lord just took him to heaven was because he was pleasing to God. He walked with God. And how could he walk with God? Because he believed that God existed and that there is a living God who is personal and I can relate with him. I can know him as he knows me. Each day, I can come to him in faith and prayer, trusting him because he will reveal all the more himself to me to make me trust him all the more. And that's really the meaning of that part of the verse in verse 6. He rewards those who earnestly seek him. You see, as we earnestly seek him, we don't really seek for his answered prayers first. We first seek for him. We first seek to fellowship with him. We first seek to know who he is, his character, so that we can trust him more. And that's really the foundation of this verse. And that's what really faith means. In fact, the reward that we will have is not the reward of any material thing. That's just, those are just secondary things. The real reward is that he will reveal more of himself to us as we earnestly seek him. The real reward is, as we seek God, he will reward us with the knowledge of who he is and a deeper understanding of his character so that we can have faith in him more, meaning so that we can trust him more. So that it's a cycle, it's a beautiful cycle of knowing him, trusting him, having faith in him, and then knowing Him more because He has proven Himself faithful. And then we will entrust ourselves to Him even more. And that's the beautiful thing, really, and that's the beautiful promise that He has for us. Let's read this quote. Those who trust Him will be pleasing to Him. And as we seek Him more and more, He will reward us with a deeper knowledge of who He is, so that we can trust Him all the more. I'll end with a story. Back in January 2017, my first wife, Maureen, was diagnosed with cancer. That brought me to a point of prayer. Prayer became a source of strength, but prayer also became a channel of my anguish and sorrow. That year, December, same year, 2017, she died. And that experience of mine, now having been married again, I see really that God is faithful, and all the more I see His goodness. Not in the answered prayers that I asked for, but really I see His goodness because He reveals Himself to me each day as a God who is trustworthy. I pray that as we continue our journey in prayer, we would understand that faith really is trusting. And if we want to please God, we have to truly come to Him with an attitude of trust.